All right, guys. All right, guys. Let me just start out by saying I'm so glad that they chose Robert Helenius instead of Gerald Washington because Washington would have been destroyed in the first round. Seeing how shitty he looked against Derek Chisora, he was completely shot. I'm so glad that they chose Robert Helenius instead because this fight was way more competitive than I would have ever imagined. First of all, I understand that the KO was very spectacular. It was. The KO looked really really good. Okay, especially when you look at it in a highlight wheel, it's gonna look great. It was a one punch KO, just like when Deontay Wilder knocked out Robert Helenius. But here's my issue with this fight is this fight was a lot more difficult than it should have been. In my opinion, I wasn't impressed with AJ's performance until the knockout. Again, the knockout was beautiful, but go, those 5-6 rounds that this fight went, or was it 7 rounds, whatever, AJ was getting hit. He was getting battered. His face was getting swollen up. He was bleeding from the nose, the mouth, the freaking eyes. He was busted up. He was swollen up. He was getting hit a lot. To me, it looked like a guy that was past his prime. You know, I didn't see the same killer AJ that he used to be, right? He looked like a guy who was past his prime. The way he was fighting, the way he was performing. I felt like he lost his killer instinct. Now, granted, he came back and in round 7 and knocked out Robert Helenius, but that was supposed to happen. Robert Helenius is a guy who's nearly 40. He's a guy who's been knocked out on multiple occasions. He was supposed to get knocked out. So I'm not looking at this knockout like, wow, he brutally knocked out Robert Helenius because he was supposed to do that. The man had been knocked out several times. He's way less in his prime than AJ. What surprised me in this fight was how much bigger Robert Helenius was next to AJ because AJ is 6'6", but Robert Helenius is listed at like 6'7", but he just looks so much bigger. He looked like a super heavyweight, while AJ looked like a heavyweight. You know, just his head, his arms, his body, his whole physique just looked way bigger than AJ. What also surprised me is what he decided to do. Robert stood right in front of AJ. He did not move. I thought he was going to move the way he moved against Dillian Whyte and the way he moved against Adam Kornacki. I thought that was what Robert Helenius was going to do, but he chose to stand in front of AJ, and he was having success. He was landing punches on AJ. You know he was landing punches on AJ because he was busting AJ up. He was busting him up. So I know they're going to show that highlight reel knockout, and they're going to be like, wow, AJ's back. AJ knocked him out cold. But you have to look at the whole fight. The whole fight to me was a lackluster performance from AJ. I wasn't really impressed. I thought he was getting hit way too much. He should not be getting hit like that against a guy like Robert Helenius, who's slow, who is way past his prime. To me, that did not look good. It's not a good look to get beat up by Robert Helenius, who just got knocked out in 30 seconds against Deontay Wilder, you know? It's just not a good look to get beat up. I know it was a last minute replacement, but I feel like this is the beginning signs of AJ going downhill, you know? I think every boxer has that time in their career where they're in their prime, they're going up, you know, they're knocking guys out, they're unbeaten, they're the champion of the world, and then they go through a stage where they start losing fights, and then you see them start to deteriorate, right? As they get older, they start to deteriorate. They start to almost lose the ambition to be great again. And I feel like this is the case with Anthony Joshua. I feel like right now Anthony Joshua is in a stage in his career where he already became champion. He's already did that. He's done that. I feel like he's starting to lose motivation to be a champion again or to be great. Maybe those 2 back-to-back losses against Usyk took a lot of confidence from him. But to me, I think that's what it might be the case. And I also think it's maybe the case where he's just peaked already. You know, he's 34 years old. He's not a young 21-year-old guy anymore. ever since he hired, James, whatever his name is, that American trainer to train him, I've not really seen improvements. To me, he's looked worse. I felt like he's looked better as a fighter when he was fighting with Robert McCracken. So is it, some people might say it's because it affected him when he saw, Errol Spence. It affected him when he saw Errol Spence Jr. get beat up. Guys, this is boxing. You gotta have balls. You gotta have tough skin. You gotta be able to just look at that, and keep going. I don't know. I feel like this is the beginning of the end for AJ. I feel like this is the beginning. I feel like you're gonna see him start declining more and more and more until eventually people are gonna be saying, "Oh, he should retire." I mean, there was moments in this fight where I thought, man, Robert might pull it off. Robert might win this fight. So, yeah, although AJ won, and congrats to him, he was supposed to win, and I just thought this was a lackluster performance. I wasn't impressed with the performance. He didn't look great in this performance. He looked pretty shitty, to be honest with you, and that's all I have to say.